welcome back to the channel. Tiffany here with another tutorial, and this one is specifically over how to make Angewomon's pink ribbon. Yee! Now this ribbon by far was the most challenging thing I have made for this cosplay and for many other cosplay builds. I don't know why, it just was so challenging for me. And I'm gonna go over in this video what I tried, what worked, and what didn't work, as well as what I would do to improve it if I would make it again, so that way you know how to make it look better than what mine did. But before we begin, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all of my tutorials, including another one coming soon for Angewomon's wings. So yeah, let's begin. Starting off with my first attempt at this, and that was basically making the pattern, which you can find on my website, tiffanygourdencosplay.com. I'll have a link in the description as well. And for this attempt, I was going to go on the route of using 4mm EVA foam as the main bone structure for this piece, so it'd be more stiff and would hopefully hold up. And I traced my pattern onto all the pieces, heat treated, cut it out, did all the typical EVA foam work. For the pink color, I wanted to match the same type of material that I used throughout the cosplay, and that's using PU coated spandex, which I got from Blue Moon Fabrics. And for attaching fabric to foam, you are doing what's called laminating, which is a technique that you're going to be using a ton of contact cement glue, because you need to apply 2 coats of the contact cement glue to both the backside of your fabric and to the foam. And I've done this process for a lot of different builds now, and I've really loved the look of it. And I'd say at this point, I liked how this was turning out. The pink on top of the foam was looking really nice and crisp and clean. It was giving me exactly what I wanted. However, the first of my downfall was deciding to use this flimsy copper wire. For some reason at the time, I thought this would work, and I was like, oh, I only need one, and this is just a basic build. No one's ever really gonna see this, so I decided to hot glue it into the middle of the foam piece. Side note, don't do that. It looks really bad. Attach the wire onto the sides if you're gonna do this process. That way it at least hides. I don't know why I did this. But anyway, I covered it with the rest of the fabric, then attached all the pieces together. And before I share my results, I'm gonna talk about the text real quick. And for the text on the ribbon, I'd say you can do it, but you don't need to. I was mainly wanting to mimic the figurines that I really loved more than the anime picture, and I ended up getting a black adhesive back wallpaper that I ended up cutting out with my laser cutter. You can also do this with a Cricut machine. It'll work just fine. And then spent a few hours with tweezers attaching all of the pieces onto the ribbon. And I'll note that the adhesive on the backing of this wallpaper is not the strongest, so you may want to find a different option. It worked for me doing just a basic photo shoot, but I would have concerns with traveling with this, as they did when you bend the ribbon around. They do tend to come off slightly. But in terms of this first attempt at making the ribbon, it didn't work. At this point, I thought it was done. I was so excited to try it on, and I went and tried putting it, and it just turned into a floppy mess. The weight of all of the EVA foam throughout the piece ended up just being a nightmare to bring around, and they just did not work. Not to mention the wire was way too weak, and it didn't even hold any bit of a shape above my head. So I ended up just scrapping the first attempt. And by scrapping, I meant ripping it all apart and trying to remove as much of that EVA foam away from the ribbon. So with this next attempt, I was no longer using foam. I was just gonna have it as a fabric-like ribbon, and the main focus was going to be creating wires to hold up that floating ribbon look. And I had some steel rod laying in the house, so I ended up using that and slightly bending it. And the idea was having 2 wires that would go in this arch-like shape that I would be able to attach my fabric onto. And for having those wires not move, I ended up 3D modeling this piece that would have the wires insert into on either side. And because this ribbon had a specific spot where the top needed to be, I ended up gluing one side of the ribbon closed with some hot glue and then went to attach it to the top part of the wire, closing it on the inside part with some more hot glue. And I hated it. It just started crinkling. It looked bad. And at this point, I kind of just was giving up on filming. So some of the parts are gonna be here and there, but I was fed up with this. I was so upset with how this ribbon was looking. I've never been so defeated by a cosplay before. So with this last attempt, I ended up taking out the bottom wire. That way it didn't wrinkle on the inside, and then closed up the fabric part. It looked a lot better. And then closed all of the fabric together with more hot glue. And this ended up being my final result. Now, how I wear this ribbon was a bit of a challenge, and so I came up with a bunch of different ways, but the way that I ended up coming up with for making it work is having it attach actually to my wing harness. And I did this specifically by attaching Velcro to the straps. And basically, I figured out where it would sit on my shoulders, and that was where I was going to attach the pink ribbon to the straps, so that way it would hold in place. Now, originally, I was just going to attach it with Velcro, and it worked! Except the ribbon, instead of it being straight up, ended up going floop. So it still stayed on me, but it wouldn't stick up. So I did end up 3D printing a triangle-like piece and attaching it to the back side of the ribbon. And then on the underside of the triangle, I attached more Velcro. And that actually made it where it would stay up in its correct form, including also the inside wire, which I went over in the video. So you can see here my 3D printed triangle, the Velcro, and the Velcro on the bottom. And this is all attached with hot glue. And basically, I would attach it like that, and like that. And that would hold it in place. And because these are printed in white, you really don't see it, as well as my hair when I'm in cosplay, the yellow hair comes down. In terms of the ribbon, the only other attachment that I did was Velcro on the left side. Because I have the white glove on, I did end up attaching a piece of Velcro onto that. And when I wrap the ribbon around, the Velcro right here would then attach to the piece of the glove that I would have in place. And that would hold it in place, but you don't really need it. And I would just continue to wrap around like so. If I was to make this ribbon again, I would still use the PU coated spandex, coat the backing with contact cement glue, as this ended up making it more stiff and easier to work with. I'd probably sew the pieces together so they would look cleaner, and would end up finding a better adhesive backing material for the text. I also would find a stronger wire to hold up the piece, and design a piece to insert into the triangle-like piece. I feel like that was a good design, and attaching with Velcro made it very easy. I also liked how lightweight this ended up being, and feeling more like a ribbon rather than going with the foam technique. But maybe this version would work better, but I don't know. And that, guys, is how I made the ribbon for my Angewomon cosplay from the anime Digimon. And I hope that this video was helpful for making your own version, or knowing what not to do anyway, or what to do, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, if it was helpful, let me know below in the comments, what other character do you think I should bring to life next? A big thank you to all of my company sponsors here on YouTube, as well as all of those members, specifically those legendary members who help to support me so I can continue doing this as my full-time job and bring you more tutorials to help you with your next build. and I'll see you for our next one, which will be the last of our tutorials for Angewomon, and it's gonna be specifically over how I made her wings. So stay tuned for that.